I've been studying wealthy and successful people for like the past 9 years, and I've read like 45 books on money alone, on top of biographies, literally hundreds of podcasts. And between all of that, I found these 12 rules of money that have completely changed my life, so hopefully they can help you as well. The penny rule. If you double a penny every single day for 28 days, you will have $1 million. You do just 3 more days and you're at 10 million. If you start with $1,000, you're only 10 doubles away from $1 million. So the first $1,000 is the hardest, then the first 10,000, then the 100,000, and then $1 million. And it seems like the more money you make, the more money you can earn. So what we should be looking to do with our money is taking 1,000 and figuring out a way to double that, and then taking 2,000 and figuring out a way to double that. If we can just do this every year, that's where real wealth starts to be created. It's a doubling game. And speaking of that, it's a game. Also, don't leave candles on top of wood. It doesn't end well. Money and success is a game. You can study it. There's a rule book. You can find loopholes in the rule book. Hence why a lot of really successful people don't pay taxes. They actually understand the game and the rules of the game better than we do because they have spent thousands and tens of thousands of hours learning that game and practicing. First time you play, not going to be very good. As you get better, you can actually compete and get better at the game. The more you play, the better you are. So if we look at a game, combat sports, Bradley Martin thinks that he can beat up like a professional fighter just because he's bigger.
I'd beat the out of you in the street.
No, I would kill you, bro. Yeah, I would kill you. I would kill you, bro.
God, I love it.
But they would absolutely destroy him because even though they aren't as genetically gifted, they're not as tall, they're not as heavy, they're not as strong, they understand the game at such a better level than him that even though he has all those advantages, because of what they understand, because of what they know, they're gonna beat him in that game, and the same thing applies to money. The 1 million rule. I originally heard about this idea from The Millionaire Fastlane. The author of this book is worth 10 million plus, and he talks about how to earn money at scale, beyond just trading your time for money. And that's creating value for a lot of people. If you wanna make $1 million, you need to aim to affect 1 million people's lives. Make them smile, make them laugh, provide housing for them, make their lives better in some way, educate them, entertain them, sell a service or good to them. If you can sell something to 1 million people, it would be almost impossible for you to not make at least $1 million. So the focus shouldn't be on making money and doing things for yourself. It should be on how can I impact and better 1 million people's lives. And once I provide that much value to that many people, I in turn will also be rewarded. By the way, that's actually my eventual goal, is to get to 1 million subscribers, have 1 million people think that I provided enough value that they hit subscribe. So if you're getting any value out of this, feel free to subscribe. It makes me smile. That's fake news. When the news says the market is crashing, everybody starts to sell, that's the time that you should buy. But when your plumber and your grandma start talking about Bitcoin, that's the time that you should sell. It's this idea that everything popular is wrong. Whatever way the news is going, whatever way people are reacting, just do the exact opposite for the most part. Even when it comes down to business, if something is hugely popular right now, starting some type of business, you pretty much already missed it. Shoot for something else that's not as popular. Instead of competing with 1,000 people trying to start this new type of business, find something that's super, super niche and compete with like 8 people. And then you just have to be the best out of that 8 instead of the best out of 1,000. Get some help. According to Forbes, 93% of billionaires attribute their success to having mentors along the way. This is one of my biggest priorities this year, is trying to find a mentor for myself. But in the meantime, I'm finding mentors in books. I found a mentor to help me kind of take back control of my mind and get a little tougher. I found a mentor to help me be a better storyteller. I found a mentor to help me think bigger in my business. Although eventually I would like to find actual people. Until then, study the rich, because success leaves clues. And you can learn things from some of the most successful people that have ever been. You can understand how they think, how they act for like 20 bucks. Now, something that could pay you 20 bucks, or actually a lot more, is subscribing to this channel, because I'm going to be giving away $1,000 to someone who subscribes before we hit 500,000, which we're getting close. So don't forget to subscribe. Avoid crabs. No, like actual crabs. If you get a bucket of crabs, you actually don't need to put a lid on in order to keep those crabs in that bucket, even though they can climb over each other, and eventually one of them will get to the top. He'll be ready to go out, and the other crabs will actually grab him and pull him back down. The crabs will actually make sure that nobody escapes, and they'll all stay in the bucket together. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who are like this. You might be driven, you might have big ideas, big goals, you might be starting a business, and there are other people who don't want you to do that. They'll make fun of you. They'll just question like why you're wasting your time doing that. They won't believe in you. They'll invite you out for drinks when what you really want to do to better your life is work on your business. They'll put you down, they'll discourage you, and you might need to just throw them back in the ocean. Because if you hang out with 5 millionaires, most likely you will be the 6th. If you hang out with 5 fit people, most likely you will be the 6th. If you hang out with 5 people who are binge watching a TV show that's 80 hours long and not really trying to do a lot in their lives, most likely you will be the 6th. Now, speaking of people who take you down, at one point I had over 82 missed phone calls just from like robocalls. And I don't know about you, but I really hate receiving like endless spam calls. At one point I just stopped taking any phone calls whatsoever because it was getting so bad. It was just ridiculous. And that's because like data brokers are making a lot of money selling our information to robocallers, spammers, and other people who just want to know more about you so they can sell you stuff, even information like where you live. So that's why I started using the sponsor of this video, Aura. Aura can actually identify data brokers exposing your information and submit opt-out requests on your behalf. And what's really cool about that is data brokers are required to remove you from their lists if you ask, but they make it super hard to do that, which is why I just let Aura do it for me. And on top of that, it is super simple to set up. You don't have to download several different apps and get things like parent controls, antivirus, VPNs, password managements, identity theft insurance, and more. You can get all of that together in one simple place at an affordable price. So if you want to stop data brokers from exposing your information and get some peace of mind, go to my sponsor, aura.com/Gabe, and then you can just check out if your personal information has been compromised. There's a link down below. Check them out. Stop renting your time. I got this idea from the Almanac, extremely good book. And Neville had a quote that you will never get rich renting your time. If you trade time for money, most people will never become rich doing that. And we know this because think of most people who do that you know, they're not rich. You're probably not rich. But instead, we need leverage. We need something that is making us money 24/7, 365. It's paying you, it's growing while you're sleeping. That's where actual wealth is created. It all comes down to leveraged versus unleveraged. Leverage is your business. It's hiring somebody and using their time on top of yours. It's using the internet. It's using other people. It's using debt. You can't create real wealth just trading your time for money. The 5% rule. A lot of us have heard of the 80-20 principle, where 20% of the actions generally lead to 80% of the results. It applies to like a billion different things. But as I've been reading more and more books about these ultra successful people, a lot of them really narrow it down to like it's 5% of things that really lead to most of the results. What's the very few things that really push your business forward that nobody else can do, that you can't outsource, that make you the most money? Is it actually being on the phone and making sales? Is it actually sitting down and creating content? Whatever your business is it making that physical product or connecting people? What are those 5% of things? And can you ruthlessly like delegate everything else? Because if you can go from spending a couple hours a week on this, even though you're working 40 hours a week on those important things, and instead of spending 5% of your time, you're spending 50% of your time or 80% of your time on those things, your business and your wealth will explode when you find those very few things that actually matter. Stealth wealth. Bet you didn't even see me there. This is the idea of not really showing off how successful you are. There's a bunch of people who, as soon as they start making good money, they're like, finally, I made it. I'm going out. I'm partying. I'm getting that car. I'm getting that watch. I'm getting that house. Show off that I'm successful. And then the economy tanks and they lose everything. That's how celebrities, famous people, people who win the lottery, they just blow through all their money. They become broke. Like you have $100 million and you just lose it all because you're trying to show off, you're living the lifestyle. Instead, we need to be practicing stealth wealth, which is like the millionaire next door. It's being okay with a slightly older car. It's just living below your means. And that doesn't always mean you have to be extremely frugal, but you have to be sustainable for the long term, where if things burn down, the economy closes for some weird reason, not that that would ever happen, and you're trapped in your house for months on end, you're gonna be okay, and it won't really affect you all that much. Stealth wealth. Singularity of focus is king. Almost every successful person that I have studied has not gotten rich by doing 8 different things. They got rich by doing one thing. You start a business, it fails. You start another one, it fails. That happens like 12 more times. And then they get one business that blows up and makes them an insane amount of money. They create one product, they have one channel, they have one idea, and that thing is what blows them up. And then once they have money and systems, then they can like diversify into other things, they can invest. But I think a lot of us try to do like 8 different things at once and none of them really do well. And you're like, I'm working so hard, I'm doing so many things, but we're going an inch deep and a mile wide when we should really be focusing all of our efforts on one thing, give it 110%. And if that doesn't work, you try one other thing at 110%, and that's where you find success. Knowledge is power. Knowledge. I feel like an idiot standing in front of my bookshelf. But from like almost everybody I've seen, it's this constant pursuit of growth and knowledge that leads people to being successful. It's constantly trying to get better at their craft, trying to be the best in the world at something. And that might sound crazy, but you're the best in the world at being yourself. How can you monetize that? It becomes hard until you narrow it down and narrow it down and narrow it down and narrow it down into one tiny little thing. And if something is small enough and specific enough, that's where it can really explode. Apple was the best in the world at making that iPhone, and then it blew up. You might be the best in the world for making a specific workout for mothers who work 3 days a week and have X amount of kids. Like whatever it is, if you narrow it down enough, you can be the best in the world at it, and you will probably be successful if you can build something around that. So if we can study up, get better, be the best, that's where wealth is created. If you enjoyed this video, you will love this video. It's right here. And you will also love subscribing because it is also free. And I'll see you next week.